Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, How to Market Your Chapter Event, presented by Zulema at AMP. Next, please. Before we begin, we want to cover a few housekeeping items. All participants are muted. The session is being recorded and will be posted online. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A tab, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. Next, please. This is an 8-week training series, and this is the 5th week. Please consider the other 3 scheduled topics and sign up for those. Without further delay, I would like to introduce Zulema Montemayor, Senior Manager of Senior Manager of Marketing at AMP. Welcome, Zulema.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. So first of all, thank you all for joining today. As mentioned, my name is Zulema, and I am here to share best practices and guidelines to effectively market your chapter events. We'll go over the top channels to consider when determining your communication strategy and share tools and services provided by AMP to help you accomplish your goals. So if you are to take anything from this presentation today, the few things that I want you to remember is it's important to follow marketing best practices and determine audience-focused communication strategies from the beginning. Remember to use multiple channels to share value-driven messaging to engage with your audience. And some of those channels include email, social media, website, and industry events. Also, remember that you are an influencer, so be an influencer. And we'll go over how to leverage this more in the presentation. So let's go ahead and start with marketing best practices. The first thing you need to do in marketing is define your strategy. Generally, we'll have some understanding of who your audience is, and all marketing initiatives need to be determined based on this. If you have multiple audiences like speakers, attendees, exhibitors, or sponsors, make sure to take different approach depending on each. The next step is you want to determine your channels, and knowing your audience is going to play a big role in this. When you determine your channels, you need to understand how you can reach each of your audiences. So you will need to use typically multiple channels. There's, studies have shown that it takes on average 7 touches or 7 times for somebody to see or hear your message before it resonates through marketing. So that's why it's important to leverage as many channels as possible to make sure that you are reaching your audience. They need to see your message multiple times before they will actually take action and engage. So in this time, whether they're a speaker, an attendee, an exhibitor, a sponsor, the approach has to change depending on who you're speaking to and focus on which channels would resonate the most with them so that you can reach them with your messaging of attending the event. Also, make sure that any content delivered through these channels resonates with your audience. So develop value-driven messaging, focusing on what someone will gain from attending, sponsoring, or exhibiting, or even speaking at one of your events. One thing that has become even more important in the past couple of years is that we need to make it easy to connect. One thing that we're hearing is that most people will not even engage with a piece of collateral if we do not have a QR code. Since 2020, that was the rebirth of the QR code, and we have people tell us that they will not type in a URL, they want a QR code. So it's all about easy access. So adding a QR code to your printed collateral, or sometimes saving it to your phone, or just offering some direct way, even if it's texting information directly to somebody that you're trying to engage with, and if you make it easier, they're more likely to engage. Lastly, remember to leverage your voice. So you are an influencer, and influencer marketing is also known as a method of word of mouth, which is still the most effective form of marketing. So just something to remember, an influencer means that you have a voice in your industry amongst your peers and professionals that is respected and trusted. So it's something that you need to be able to leverage, and probably one of your most powerful marketing tools. So email promotion. So in a recent study, AMP members and non-members stated that email is still the #1 preferred channel to receive information from AMP. But we have to make sure that we are using it correctly to avoid getting flagged as spam and to engage this audience. Some tips and guidelines to remember is that make sure that you have the correct up-to-date emailing list. If you use lists that have a lot of incorrect or old addresses, servers will be more likely to mark your email as spam. Remember to use a recognizable name or email in the from line. People have told us that they're more likely to open an email if it's coming from an individual than an organization or a generic from line. Also, you're less likely to get spammed or flagged as spam. Use a concise descriptive headline. Headlines such as "See what's new" or "Mark your calendar" are too generic and get flagged as spam. Examples of strong headlines include "Join us in December 2023 for a technical presentation," or maybe something like "Learn what chapter leaders have planned for 2023." Never use all caps in your email because that will likely also be flagged as spam. Use images that are relevant to engage, but do not use too many. So spam filters within the emails will check for a ratio of images to text in an email. And if the ratio of images is too high, the email will be registered as spam. As a good rule of thumb to follow, have 80% of your email be text and 20% be images. Also, it's important to keep content clear, concise, relevant, and always include a CTA or a call to action. Focus on what will drive your audience's attention. You know your audience, you know their business objectives, you know what they're trying to achieve. Tell them what they need to know, but don't offer up everything. Marketing is meant to offer just enough information to intrigue them, just enough to make them want to act. Also, most email systems will have a spam checker that you can double check your content to make sure it's good to go. So use your email spams checker before you send the email out. And this is also a good way to make sure that you won't get flagged. Don't forget to include a valid unsubscribe link or language. Typically at the bottom, if you have some sort of system like HubSpot or MailChimp, you can typically add an automatic unsubscribe feature at the bottom. If you don't have that and you're just emailing from your own email, you always want to include something at the bottom of the email that says something along the lines of, "You do not wish to receive further communication from us, please respond." And that's important because that is part of the email requirements that we as an organization follow. It is also best for, even if it's coming from the chapters, we do need to follow certain requirements. The first one is the opt-out footer, like I mentioned. This is on the right, what you can see is the opt-out footer that we use, where we allow them to manage their preferences or unsubscribe for future emails. AMP is fully committed to complying with the International Anti-Spam Email Compliance Policies. And because of that, we ask that all group emails directed towards AMP members include an action to enable members to unsubscribe from future emails if that is what they wish to do. Also, email privacy is extremely important at AMP. AMP has conducted several campaigns to gain consent from email contacts in Canada and the European Union. There are certain guidelines that we need to follow that are set by CASL, which is the Canada Anti-Spam legislation, and GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation. All contacts within these areas including members and officers who have provided consent will continue receiving communications from AMP, but they do have to provide consent. Blind copy is also something that we need to keep in mind. So when sending out a group emails to multiple recipients, it's important that we do blind copy all recipients, just for privacy's sakes as well. And then something that we wanted to mention that's coming soon is that AMP is working on providing email scripts. So personalized invitations sent via email for prospective speakers, exhibitors, sponsors, and attendees is a great way to spread the word about participating in your event. AMP has created a series of scripts that can easily be customized, and these scripts will include requesting abstracts, soliciting exhibitors and sponsors, soliciting attendees, and driving registration. So that's something to keep an eye out for that we will be providing soon. Email promotion by AMP. So for events not partnered with AMP headquarters, AMP marketing will send one promotional email to its database. Event must meet a certain criteria though. So the event is a technical presentation that can exclude exhibits. So the event must be a technical presentation that can include exhibits and networking events. However, the event cannot be a chapter monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly meeting, a fundraising event hosted by another organization, association, or company, partnered with AMP headquarters. So this is there's a separate agreement for those events that are partnered with headquarters, and that's an MOU. And it cannot be an education course or series of education courses. If there's more information needed on this, feel free to contact marketing. There are a few other criteria items that may apply, but these are the top ones to keep in mind. So social media. I know that Jana, who is our in-house social media expert, already spoke to you all, so I won't go into too much detail, but I would like to quickly explain why it's important to leverage social media for marketing your event. So we know that AMP members are active on social media, and they do this to keep up with what's happening in their industry and their peers. Again, when AMP members and non-members were asked to identify their preferred channels of communication, email was number one, but social media was very, very high on the list, specifically LinkedIn. I believe around 81% of participants or respondents said that LinkedIn was one of the preferred channels to hear about what was going on in the industry, and specifically to hear about what was going on with AMP as a whole. It's considered to be the most professional of the social media platforms, and it's where they expect to hear from us. So it's definitely something that we need to leverage and use. And this is the perfect platform where you can use your voice and be an influencer. So how do you become an influencer? So it's important to build that credibility on social media, specifically on LinkedIn. Here are a few tips to help you build that credibility. First, you want to make sure your profile is up to date. Make sure your photo is recent. Make sure you update your background image. It's relevant to you, to your industry. It's professional. Make sure that your headline is up to date as far as who you want to represent to your peers, or at least within LinkedIn and externally as well. Make sure you update any memberships, certifications, anything that helps really build that credibility and establish you as an industry leader. Position yourself as an AMP membership leader as well. This is also something that you can really update within your information so that you are clearly seen as an AMP leader, either within the description or the headline. Follow your peers. So follow your peers, make sure that you are staying, relevant, you're staying visible, and that they are in, establish those opportunities where you both can connect, or you can connect with multiple people. Publish long form content. So by long form content, these are things like white papers and articles. These are great conversation starters. So publishing long form content will not only position you as a thought leader, but it will show how engaged you are within the industry. And it positions you more as a thought leader, as an industry leader, as an AMP leader. And it's a great way just to build that credibility. Share content and engage regularly. So what's important here is whether, yes, posting is important, but also if you like, if you comment, LinkedIn will show that on the feed. And basically, if you're engaging with your peers and you're posting thought-provoking content or comments or just engaging, other people within your peers network will see that. And that's another way to expand your network as well. Another thing to remember is that you can promote your event on AMPP.org. This will definitely help bring some more awareness to your event. For events not partnered with headquarters, the first task will be to submit on the event calendar submission form, and that is found on AMPP.org under the Events tab. So you could submit your information here, and it will be added to the website. This is something what it will look like. This will add your event to the AMP events page, which is the first place AMP members and other industry professionals go to view upcoming events. This page ranges, or I should say averages, nearly 5,000 page views per month, with visitors spending more than 2 minutes searching through the listings. Posting your event here will introduce it to an engaged audience that is actively looking to know about what is happening in the industry. Also, one thing to note is that when AMP audience was surveyed to identify their top communication channels, the AMP.org website came up as the third highest preferred option. Another channel to remember is the AMP and industry events. So you can use these events to market your own conference as well. Of course, they could be in person when you're meeting with them in person. That's when having collateral or that QR code is important to have so that you can easily direct them to more information so that they can stay engaged and keep up to date what's happening with your event. So definitely an important thing to remember when networking. Another great place to serve as an influencer. Also, the AMP annual conference is another great platform and would be considered a good channel to market your conference. There is quite a bit of attendance there and definitely lots of exposure, and a great way just to reach more potential attendees, sponsors, exhibitors, you name it. So something else that is coming soon that we're pretty excited about is that AMP is working on creating what we're calling the AMP Chapter Toolkit. This was developed to help each chapter create digital and print collateral to raise awareness of your AMP chapter hosted events. So this toolkit will include things like social media post templates, a letterhead, flyer templates, presentation templates, and a lot more. You could see a few of the items that we are developing on the right-hand side, just a quick snapshot. And just a few things to note, these will be pre-developed AMP branded designs. The templates will be available on Canva. And for those of you who are not familiar with this, Canva is a user-friendly, free online digital design platform that is extremely easy to use. It makes it easy to update and personalize the content. So even though the templates will be set and ready to go for you, you can easily move the content around. You can update it, copy and paste, very easy to use. The designs can be edited pretty easily. It's just a drag and drop feature, not complicated at all. And you will be able to download each file in whatever format you need. Additionally, there are other marketing options or packages that are available for purchase. And we also offer marketing at a reduced, or advertising, I should say, at a reduced rate through our AMP Media channel. So we do have Materials Performance, Coatings Pro, and Corrosion Journal. We also have the AMP.org website. We have podcasts. And so there's definitely a few different options for you to choose from to make sure that you are getting the word out regarding your conference, or your event, I should say. And that pretty much sums it up. Please let me know if there are any questions.
Thank you, Zulema. We will go ahead and start with some questions. And the first one is, how do you create a QR code?
So to create a QR code, there are a few options. There are some resources out there that are available online that are, if not free, pretty cost efficient. One that we have used that's available online is QR Code Monkey, I believe, QR Monkey. And that's a pretty easy one. You do have to pay for an account, but it's pretty cost effective, and you can easily track who is, how many people are engaging with your QR code. So it gives you some metrics, which is pretty cool. So that's a website that's available, or I should say an option that's available online. If you do have options to, or access to creative software, InDesign is the other option that we use internally. But those are just to name a couple. I know there's other options available.
Okay, the next one is, what email service do you recommend? Is one better than another, such as Constant Contact or MailChimp?
They all have their pros and cons. I would say that MailChimp and Constant Contact are about the same. I think it all comes down to price. Which one makes the most sense as far as a price goes? I know internally our sales team has used MailChimp, has been very happy with it. I've used Constant Contact in the past, and I've been happy with it too. It does the job. There's not really one that's better than the other. As an organization, we use HubSpot. It is great. It has much more advanced features, though, that isn't necessary for something like this, and it's quite a bit more expensive, I would say. So HubSpot is good, but it is a little bit more expensive. I don't think you could go wrong with any of the options, to be completely honest with you.
Okay, the following question is, how can we best market events of a host chapter that relies on the host platform, and together they make a conference?
I'm not sure if I'm following. Let's see, how can we best market an event of a hosted chapter that rely on the host platform? What do we, host platform, what do we mean by that? And together they make, do you know, Cindy?
I'm not certain. This message or question came from Norm.
Together. I'm assuming it's platform, people, and resources.
So maybe I can help clarify, because I think what they're asking, if they are a hosted chapter, which means internationally they have a host organization, maybe a company, or utilize a service to where they can operate within that region. So they're not locally recognized as an entity for that chapter, and they're partnering with a host. If they're relying on that host to help market because they're utilizing their platform, how best can they do that? And Noam, if I am incorrect in interpreting your question, please let us know.
Okay, got it. Well, that's a difficult one to answer just because I'm not really sure what that partnership agreement is and what their capabilities are. I would say that the best practices and channels that we spoke of here would be relevant across the board. So definitely still relying on, those strategies, leveraging these key channels. That's going to be important, whether it's done through the partnership or not. So these best practices that were shared are relevant no matter who is doing the marketing. I'm not sure if that helps.
And Zulema, if I can add on to that, no, I know that as a host for a chapter, those hosts enter into contracts and can help with the financial situation of those host chapters. So with that in mind, there are a lot of things that Zulema shared today that don't require a contract or a financial obligation, such as social media, posting on AMP.org and sharing your events that way. So I think there's some things also that your chapter can do without utilizing the host. So I think that's important to leverage those additional resources as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have one last question, and that is links or QR codes, which is best?
So we are hearing that QR codes are best. In a recent focus group, I had somebody pull up a flyer that we created, and it was a short and quick link, or so we thought, and they told us that they would not type it in. That if it doesn't have a QR code, they're going to pass it up and move on. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So if you're going to put it on a piece of collateral and have the end user, your audience, take the action, if you can use a QR code, do that. I feel like they are more likely to respond. If you are emailing somebody, if it's more of a digital emailing, texting, whatever it is, or including it, of course, on a post or anything like that, that is a URL or a link, I should say.
Thank you, Zulema. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar. For any additional questions, please bring these over to the community of interest and we will answer those questions at this session.